Hello, and welcome to We'll Throw the After Party, where somebody starts editing the doc as soon as we go live, and it messes up my intro.
Sorry.
Welcome to the show. We're here. We're celebrating the national holiday of Julie Andrews' birthday. We're queer, and we'll throw the after party. Let's get into it. I am joined, of course, by my lovely co-hosts. Marissa, how's it going this week?
Oh, it's been good. Yeah. Solid answer.
That's the energy we're coming into this show with. Alexis, how's it going for you?
The grad school is really grad schooling this week, but it's been good.
All right. Well, we're hanging out. We're chatting about all the things we're enjoying, and we're going to do little fun segments. And don't worry, Bunky, there's plenty of time to hang around before we jump into our She-Hulk coverage for this week. So, we're going to kick this off with all of the things we've been enjoying. I'm so sorry, Alexis. I'm going to kick it to you first because you had something about a fishing scandal and it's gone now, but I really need to know more about this.
Oh, I can tell you. I erased it because I figured like nobody would give a shit about the scandal in pro fishing. But so this has been like a year for scandals in games. Like there was a big chess scandal. There was a big scandal in that game that Isaac Mizrahi really likes. Anyway, and now there has been a scandal in pro fishing. So basically, I guess how pro fishing works is that you know, at a certain deadline, you have to weigh the fish that you have caught. And this championship winning pro fishing team who has made like hundreds of thousands of dollars were caught weighing down the hooks that go into the fish when they're weighed. And so they were like doing some sleight of hand stuff to slip their hooks in and take out the regulation hooks so that when their fish were weighed, they came up as weighing significantly more. And some of it was caught on camera. To my knowledge, it broke like today. So they still haven't really figured out like how long this has been going on and how they are going to be penalized and all of this sort of stuff. But yes, there's a scandal in pro fishing.
That's incredible.
Yeah.
My favorite part of the show is learning about things I would have no reason to know about either, including shows like Schitt's Creek.
Woo-woo! I've been watching Schitt's Creek this week. I've been rewatching Schitt's Creek this week. I don't know. The leaves start falling, a wind starts blowing, and I'm like, it's time to go back. And I watch it the wrong way, which is starting with Patrick's first episode, which is like 308 or something. So I skipped 2.5 seasons every time I rewatch it, and I've rewatched it, I don't know, 6-7 times now. So I've been enjoying Schitt's Creek. Mostly I've been enjoying David and Patrick. I really only watch it for David and Patrick. And Alexis is fun. But like, as has previously been established on the show, I am a David Rose in my soul. Liz is an Alexis Rose in her soul. So yeah, I watch it for David and Patrick.
Lots of enthusiasm for Schitt's Creek. I don't get comedy. So like I'm so happy you're enjoying it.
I know.
Before we talk about what I've been enjoying, we're gonna take a little detour and talk about the thing that Marissa will never watch. This is a brief 911 corner. The 911, it's back, baby. That's all I have to say. It's a return to form. I'm feeling good. This episode, if you go back to my previous rant about who the best writer is, there was one person who I said, like, if Taylor Wong's not my favorite writer, they are directed and wrote this episode. So, feeling good about it. That's all I have to say. Alexis, thoughts?
I prepared for this, and as soon as you asked me for my thoughts, Phew. Yeah. So 911, this season 6 will be the first season that I have watched entirely live. Like I caught some of 5B. I had caught up to watch some of it live, but this will be the first season I've watched entirely live. For those of you who have not been longtime friends and family of the After Show Party universe, I started watching this show because Sly sent me some really cool edits and some really good fan fiction. And I use media as a connection tool. And so I decided, because this show was an important show to important people in my life, I would watch it. I fell in love with it. And now I'm in this sticky situation where, because as previously established on this show, I am a neurodivergent bitch. I am like hyper fixated on this thing, right? And that means that for me personally, like I want to discuss it all the time. I want to talk about it all the time. I want to whisper about it at night and gently debate it and write about it and read about it and discuss the things I've written and read about it and do research on it. And it's been tough because I feel like every time I have presented myself to the 911 fandom, they have found me not worthy and they have like cast me aside. And my friends that watch it have really great, thriving communities where they get to discuss it, which, you know, kind of sets boundaries and limitations on like the amount I'm going to discuss it with them. So I decided to take my own notes on the show this week as an outlet. And after about 18 pages of notes, which included lovely questions to Sly and JJ that they will not see, I decided that this episode got 3 Alpines, 1 Home Depot purchased tortilla warmer, and 6 vegan hard shell tacos, which for me puts it at around a 3.8. I think Alpine math exists in an alternate dimension. I don't know that my math is consistent with the previous math that has been established on this platform, but that is the math that works for me. And I kind of wanted to set up a formula in which I could like answer Sly's question more quickly in the future. So that's my rating. It was an episode I liked much better on rewatch. I found there was some camera work that took me out of it the first time through. The pro to this episode to me was that Peter Krause got to host a masterclass on acting in silences and really being a strong, parenthetical, positive scene partner. I thought that was beautiful. And the con to me was that I still have issues with 80% of the dispatch storyline that's happening. My question, my overwhelming question for this episode was, are the straights okay? Because I was highly confused by needing to have an affair with someone so badly you would tunnel under your house. But other than that, it was a pretty solid episode for me.
Fair enough. Yeah, I don't know. Those were lovely thoughts. I don't think I have anything to add. Again, I do have a show where all we talk about is, well, that's a lie. It's not all we talk about. We go on a lot of tangents, but mostly we talk about 911. Yeah. But what I've been enjoying this week is I haven't really listened to podcasts more than like the usual ones that I try to keep up with every week in about a year. And I finally just like started listening to new podcasts again this week, which is really exciting. So I'm going to give you a quick little roundup. From NPR, the show Code Switch did a D&D episode that was really good. If you're somebody who already plays D&D, it's not really targeted at you. There's a lot of conversations that I've had with my friends and people in the space that when we're talking about how we build worlds that we play in. But if you're not into D&D and have heard something about the whole race situation and want to hear people talk brilliantly about it, check that out. A show I've been keeping up with, but I want to shout out from Multitude is Games and Feelings, which is a advice podcast talking about games and feelings and has guests all the way from hardcore gamers to people who like flinch at being called a gamer. So it's like a wide variety of perspectives. But this most recent episode had a comment about needing to win PowerPoint nights. And if you watched our last show where we did a PowerPoint night, I did win. And so that felt very validating.
You
It wasn't
declared
the
yourself the
competition,
winner. You
but I
declared
did
yourself
win.
the winner. Nobody
Uh,
established you were the winner except yourself.
Correct. I started listening to backlogged episodes of The Fic List, which is a fan fiction book club. It's, everything I could ever want in a podcast. I don't know what to tell you. From Allie Hilton. I don't remember what collective this is under, but there's a new audio drama called Human Error, and it's a post-apocalyptic horror like zombie podcast. Very well done. It's consulted by Carol Minks, who I am like so incredibly in love with professionally, and just everything they're a part of. And Allie Hilton is such a sweetheart and does a lot of other really cool audio dramas. And then one of my favorite shows that I like never recommend to anyone ever because I'm sensitive is Valence podcast. It's an audio drama. It's my comfort podcast. It's my road trip podcast. It's my whenever I need to listen to something, I listen to this podcast. So if you don't like it, don't tell me. But it's out there. It's like tackling like it's low fantasy, tackling like data privacy and uh human registration, all these like cool interesting topics in a really interesting way. But yeah, that's what we've been enjoying this week. And our next segment is what we haven't been enjoying or what we want to rant about. Um, but when we fill out the infamous show doc, our descriptions this week are really something. So let's pull up the infamous timer here and tell everybody what not what your rant is, but what you wrote in the rant section to describe your rant. Because mine is sigh, Duolingo, maybe, question mark. Marissa?
Okay, I wrote this one tweet Liz sent me because I love her.
With the comment from Alexis, I truly cannot wait. Alexis in the voice of Sophie Devereaux. But Alexis, what did you write for what you're ranting about?
This is really why we're playing this game, so you can embarrass me on air. I don't ducking know anymore.
It was the ducking that really got me.
Yeah.
Was it an intentional ducking?
No, it's
Okay.
I think I typed it on my phone. My phone autocorrects to ducking. And,
Yeah.
I just.
It's a common autocorrect. Yeah.
Yeah, I just don't give a shit to fix it anymore. So, yeah.
With that, let's kick off our rants. So I'm talking about Duolingo. I've complained about this to the people in my life so much recently that I figured I'm finally at the place where I'm less salty enough that I can make my grievances known on air. But if somehow you missed it, Duolingo a while back made an update that was truly horrendous and nobody likes it and they still haven't fixed it. And I'm gonna tell you why everybody hates it in the next segment.
My sweet dear friend Liz has had a really hard week, and so I'd like to dedicate this rant to her. It's not so much a rant as it is just a discussion. So this is the tweet that she sent me. Hugh Jackman in Deadpool 3, but as Jean Valjean. And the note she sent it with was suggestion for Marissa's rant, or maybe it was like possibility for Marissa's rant. And like, let's just start there because what the hell? All right. Okay. Wolverine is back.
I am pretty jealous, though, that I didn't get suggestions for Alexis's rants, because I did not come up with one. So instead, we're just going to use this time that I had previously dedicated to a rant about Oliver Stark and the MCU that I did not prepare. We're just going to spend this time, and I'm just going to share random ass thoughts I've had this week. So one of the things I thought about this week was this really interesting article I read.
So the first problem with Duolingo is everybody who's like a language learner, like serious, tries to dunk on Duolingo which is in some parts fair, because what Duolingo markets itself as is not what it is. It is an excellent tool for improving reading comprehension if you use it like that. It is not a all-in-one mastery language learning site, right? And you have to know that going in.
I've never seen any of the Deadpool movies. I've never seen any of the X-Men movies. I don't think I have seen any of the Marvel movies outside of the MCU except for the Spider-Mans. So to start off, I can't comprehend why it really matters that Hugh Jackman is going to be in Deadpool 3, but the fact that I now have to think about his shaky ass vibrato from the Les Mis movie in Deadpool, why would you do that to me, Elizabeth?
So I'm in grad school. I'm in grad school with largely neurotypical people, and neurotypical people, I have some shit to say to you, but we'll handle that on another day. So recently I have been reading research outside of my area of study just to try to understand the neurotypical, neurodivergent divide. And I read an article this week that explained that it's not that neurodivergent people don't get comedy. It's that neurotypical people have a different style of comedy, and their comedy is actually...
So when you look at how Duolingo used to function, it was more of tree branching for your learning opportunities, which is really helpful if you want to kind of jump around. Maybe you don't want to focus on grammar. You could do the more vocabs heavy lessons or whatever. And this new update has it super railroaded, so you have to go absolutely one by one in order. And it's a nightmare, especially for people like me who cheesed the system.
Okay, so she gave me that horrible thought. And then I started thinking about some of the other tweets that Liz has sent me. And so I just like to explore some of those with you right now. She sent me this, which is Amelia Clark trying to understand how to do a finger heart thing. And her comment with that was some memes to add to your meme folder, which is great. But I don't watch Game of Thrones. I don't really talk about Amelia Clark that much. I love those pictures. It's very funny. The Heartstopper cast is in them. But why?
It's based on social constructs of humor, and neurodivergent humor or comedy is based on wordplay and logic and funny commentary, which is why we don't understand commentary, because we don't understand the dumbass social constructs that you are basing your humor off of that you think is funny. Another thought that I had this week was that Oliver Stark should definitely wear more sweaters, and that he and Goran Visnjic should team up in the MCU to sell them.
So what used to happen is when you would take an end of unit test in Duolingo, it would autofill all of the previous lessons at level 1 of 5. And I may or may not have cheesed the test just so I could jump around in different segments. And now it just auto completes that entire lesson segment. And so you can't jump around anymore. And honestly, for how I learn, it's terrible. And the only reason...
So Liz also sent me this tweet with no caption. It's Daniel Kaluuya and Simone Ashley just looking fabulous. And I appreciated that. She then sent me this and asked me, is this Our Flag Means Deathcore? Which it is. What else? This was just informative. The fact that My Policeman is going to be screened in Chicago. She sends me every tweet she's ever seen about Elizabeth Olsen or
I
Wanda
also thought
Maximoff.
this week about the fact that people thought Ronan Rubinstein had really injured his thumb when it was actually just a vegetable cutting accident, which I think we can all agree is far more likely than like whatever the weird fan mob cooked up. I thought this week about my cats and how Tommy has a really soft coat, but he is getting a little hefty and we may need to again cut back on the niblets, which is going to be an issue. Let's see. What other thoughts did I have this week?
And I'm just going to quickly give us a little chance to wrap up our thoughts. The only reason I've stuck with Duolingo post this update is I am very close to hitting a 365-day streak. And this is the closest I've been to that. And so once I get to the 365, I probably will just stop using the app entirely. But until then, I'm just suffering and choosing my way through by just retaking the Russian alphabet learning section over and over again so I don't have to do actual lessons. Marissa, do you have any closing thoughts?
I do. I want to say this tweet about Elizabeth Olsen looking like Mary-Kate and Ashley Olsen is just very funny. And I do appreciate being sent it by Elizabeth. I appreciate every tweet she sends me, even if they are nonsensical or force me to think about Jean Valjean in a Deadpool movie. I love you, Elizabeth. I wish you were here. Sending you love and hugs and snacks, gluten-free snacks.
Alexis,
It's your turn, Alexis.
I know it's my turn. I really don't have anything else to say. I didn't have the last minute and a half worth of information to say. So
amazing.
I will say the follow-up to the end of your Alexis is Bucky being so right. Neurotypical aren't as funny as us. It's okay. You can say it. All right. That was a trip and a half. I don't know where we go from here. It's been a weird week. Of course, send all of the love and thoughts and prayers and vibes and energy over to Liz. Keeping her in our hearts this week. Speaking of, I was trying to make a hearts and blood connection to She-Hulk, and it did not get there. Anyways, She-Hulk is a thing. Let's talk about it.
Great.
This is the segment of the show where every week I remember that we have 2 timer related segments back to back. And so you no longer get to see our large and beautiful faces and we get to stare at the
wait.
timer.
Can I try and transition from
Absolutely
love in our hearts to She-Hulk? Okay. So speaking of hearts pump blood. She-Hulk is all about a hunt for the She-Hulk's blood. So now we're talking about She-Hulk.
We got there eventually.
Wow, that was one of the most labor transitions I think I've ever heard.
So we're gonna recap this entire episode. I don't remember any of it, so I'm scrolling down to my notes because I definitely cheat. I don't care what y'all say. Are we ready?
Sure.
No, never. All right. Okay, it kicks off with a rom-com montage thing that I thought there was a pan shot in it that was super framey and it totally took me out at the top. Josh was being all cute and too good to be true. There was a shot of Miss Piggy hulking out of a jail cell that was great. I was really distracted by the tea on the bedside table. And then we're in the office and Jen gets nominated for Female Lawyer of the Year.
And then she has to go check on Blonsky because his inhibitor is malfunctioning, and so she has to drive up to Malibu or something. I don't know, his compound. And then some men destroy her car, and then she's stuck there for the day waiting for a tow truck, and she's being ghosted by Josh, but she's refreshing her tweets, texts all the time, and then she goes to group therapy.
Yeah, she ends up in this weird ass non-therapeutically backed unsanctioned therapy situation where it comes out that She-Hulk is the cool kid and Jen is the nerd and she wants to be wanted, and then we find out that con man Josh was a con man all along. And he cloned her phone and apparently did some blood snipping and took a really uncomfortable picture.
Oh, yeah. Big time.
I
that's
will
how it
say the therapy group was really given that one retreat on 911 where they accidentally gave people sketchy mushrooms. That was the vibe I was thinking of the whole episode. That's a deep cut for all two of our 911 fans.
That's the episode with the legs, right? Isn't that the episode with the legs?
Yeah.
Where my adorable baby fire truck gets its really useless
They're
feet.
stabilizers. They do have it for anyways.
But
Before we get into this debate again,
useless. You can't
The words
stabilize a
that you're
truck.
saying make no sense to me. But then I think about when you have watched shows that I actually know and you try and talk about that, and even that makes no sense to me. So the fact that Sly is understanding what you're talking about is incredible.
we've had this argument often, so
I don't actually think
comes
we
up.
have. I think you and JJ have.
Oh, well,
Anyways.
JJ's setting off about it now.
Mm-hmm.
JJ and I co-host a show where we get really drunk and yell about 911, and it's a really fun time. And I'm bringing that energy to our toast section because I am toasting this week with a glass of wine. What are we all
Nice.
toasting with?
I'm toasting with my traditional white grape juice. Harry
Is that
Styles.
the dad tumbler?
No, it's just
No.
my university.
Or
Harry
RP?
Styles wrote Grape Juice Blues about me. So
I had a Capri Sun, but it feels like a lot of effort. So I guess we're gonna go with the tea, with sweet tea.
All right.
all right.
Marissa, what are you toasting to this week?
Oh, I have to scroll back up to it because I was cheating. I'm toasting to the rom-com montage. That was a perfectly executed rom-com montage. I greatly enjoyed it. So, cheers.
Cheers.
Chink.
I am toasting to a segment that someone completely skipped over in the recap, where we met two of the main dudes of the show and we got a lot of details, and Jen made a comment about it being unnecessary backstory, and it was my favorite part of the episode. So a toast to unnecessary backstory.
Cheers. I hope it translates on screen that we put our drinks in the corner so it looks like we're cheersing.
I will say, I think it translates better when there are four of us. I think it does. I think look a little odd when part of our soul is missing. I am toasting to Nikki's whole look this episode, which I had a lot to say about in my notes because it was fabulous.
Cheers.
Cheers. All right, those are some things we enjoyed this episode. We're gonna move on to some things that we did not enjoy, that maybe made us hulk out a little bit. Mine, I just put lowercase Josh period. That's it. That's it.
Yeah.
I don't want to give him any more attention. Marissa.
I've stated previously that I have tried my hardest to never include a man in the promotional images for this show, for our She-Hulk after parties. And I was forced against my will to include men in our show promos this week because there was simply no other images available to me. There were just too many men in this episode. It was for a show that has passed the Bechdel test flawlessly every episode, and then to give me only one conversation between two women where they only talk about a man, and then the rest of the episode is all men? No, thank you. So my Hulk out moment of the week is the fact that I had to put men in the promo because there were too many men in this episode.
Valid. Speaking of men.
Yes, similarly, my Hulk out moment of the week is that Jen's emotional growth plot happened in a male-dominated group therapy space. Question mark.
Question mark.
Group therapy space?
It felt very like the first meeting of a cult that you go to.
Oh, 100%.
Like the welcome meeting where they like make you all emotionally vulnerable so you feel safe, and then they reel you in, and then it turns out that you have to give them your paycheck and your passport and never leave again.
Oh, it absolutely gave wellness retreat vibes. Like it felt so much like a like wellness retreat. Like that energy really shined, for better or for worse. As you can see, there were a lot of men in this episode, and we have a lot of strong feelings about the men. And as I was thinking about that, I remembered that these past 3 episodes have been with the other director. And so I was curious to y'all's thoughts on how we feel about episodes 1 through 4 as a whole compared to episodes 5, 6, and 7.
I do have feelings about it. No, I do have feelings about it, but I haven't, like, they haven't been crystallized previously. But I do think that, like, generally 5, 6, and 7 have just not been as fun. Just like overall. Also, I think it is the fault of the show in general that not a lot happened. We were comfortable with not a lot happening, and then they suddenly decided that a lot had to happen. And so it feels like 5, 6, and 7 in some ways were wasted time. And so it's like, well, what have we really accomplished here? Other than like a whole episode dedicated to Jen's emotional growth, which is something that like she didn't need to have to begin with. Like she didn't have to go on that journey. She could have been confident and self-assured from the beginning, and like it wouldn't have changed anything other than like not giving us a group therapy men-centric episode. Like
we'll get to the therapy, trust me. We'll get there. Yeah, I think it really shows when you look at the like energy that was brought to the episodes that you know the writing still feels pretty cohesive. I don't super agree with all the choices they're making, but it feels like the energy and the performances we've been getting these past 3 episodes just feel a little off tonally from how we kickstarted the show. And I think that's where I'm at right now. That might change when we get back into the first director's episodes going forward. But yeah. Alexis, do you have any thoughts on that?
I would love to say that I did, but I really don't.
So
I do think there were more episodes I enjoyed probably in the first 4, but I think both chunks have been like hit or miss for me. Like there have been episodes in both chunks that I've enjoyed, and there have been episodes in both chunks that just I didn't really follow as well. So
absolutely. I'm right there with you. With the exception, words are hard. I'm drinking tonight. We'll see how this goes. With the exception of this episode, it was funny. It got a chuckle out of me. That was a first. Like I like legitimately laughed out loud during this episode, and I went, "Oh, you can get me?" And I am pretty sure it was the "You've never heard of Spain" line that it just really got me, and I was like, all right, you got a single laugh out of me, I maybe understand it now. But again, it took 7 episodes to get a single chuckle. So, you know,
Maybe it's still not your show.
maybe it's still not my show, and that's fine. But apparently it actually is funny. But speaking of it being not my show, we're gonna jump into my favorite segment, Lawyer Corner, in which I say there was no lawyering this entire episode. R.I.P.
I mean, the vehicle for which she went to the retreat was theoretically lawyering, but there was no court lawyering.
It wasn't, because she only went as a bodyguard for the cop dude who was afraid of Blonsky.
Yeah, that's
who
true.
disrupted his inhibitor by touching an electric fence to save a chicken. Which, honestly, icon behavior from Emil this episode. Only in that single line of dialogue, not the rest of it. But men in therapy. TM. The therapy was really therapizing ish. It was trying. Alexis had a lot of great thoughts and bullet points around this. Can you kick off this point of discussion around everything?
Sure, I can. When I find said notes and bullet points that you were discussing about my therapy points. This to me had very wellness retreat energy, as we previously discussed. And so it was a little weird or disconcerting to me to put like what we're, I guess, supposed to read as like a valid group therapy situation happening like in that space.
Are we supposed to read it as valid? Because I read it as very bad.
But I also couldn't tell because it was like, because of her reaction to all the men at the end was like, oh, they're good people and there has been like growth. So then I was like, maybe I am supposed to have thought this is like a valid process. I don't know. I didn't like his tone. I didn't like the way the group was set up. I was really uncomfortable with it. I really wanted to be anywhere else. But I think the thing that kind of bothered me the most was that we have had a lot of discussion about like this Jen She-Hulk relationship. And I was excited to kind of hear Jen speak about that. But there was something about it being in a space that is supposed to, like being on a show that is supposed to center around Jen, for her to have that moment in like front of a bunch of random male characters, capital M men characters that we previously haven't met, was a little weird to me. It was also a little weird to me that one of them is her attacker and we just kind of like let him go on like a morally good level. I thought that was a little odd.
I think that was my biggest issue because I thought there was a lot of value to be had for her character in having these like thoughts and ideas being said out loud to a sounding board, but the inclusion of somebody who had physically attacked her in that space really ruined it for me. Like the other people besides Blonsky, we had no history with. They were just kind of blank slates. We got a little bit of, story about them that was interesting. And I feel like if they had just kept with that group, it would have been better. But that inclusion of somebody who has like physically attacked her and wanted to cause harm to her just because of who she is really negated everything else going on in that scene.
Yeah.
And I agree.
It was like a weird, like, attempt at validating, like, Blonsky's ability as a, like, support system, I feel like, to be, like, look, this man physically attacked Jen and he's reformed and now he's nice. Like, it was all very TV therapy in that, like, it only existed to serve a plot purpose rather than like effective character growth, really. I'm done now.
Yeah, I think in response to Sly's point in particular, there were moments in this therapy session that like did hit with me as a viewer. Like this, there's a line about like, well, it hurts when someone rejects us, blah, 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 because we're rejecting ourselves. I felt like that was a really powerful line that I got a little pissed about, because of the way it called me out personally. There were like lines about like, you haven't been spending enough time with Jen. Like you haven't been spending enough time with that part of yourself that I thought was really valid and moving. But to me, having those thoughts come out of this space that I just felt like really uncomfortable in and disconnected to, because it was, like you said earlier, Marissa, it was all of a sudden, it was like a whole bunch of men, like all over this episode. And so from where we had come with previous episodes, like not having that same dynamic and not knowing a lot of these characters, that kind of made me uncomfortable. And then this space was uncomfortable. And as Sly said, like her attacker being there was uncomfortable, because he may be reformed, but we didn't see any of that work. Right.
Mm-hmm.
So like it kind of made those pieces that could have been really impactful, just not like, I didn't quite know how to take them because they were coming from this space that I didn't enjoy or feel comfortable in.
Yeah. It also, I feel like there's something to the fact that like Jen's, realization of her self-worth or whatever is in a group of men also tied to a man. Like she only came to this understanding of herself because she was ghosted by a guy. Like it wasn't work that she chose to do on herself because it was something that she wanted to do for herself. It was like, it's very external and like through the lens of men in a way that like felt off for this show, just in general, I think.
And I think a lot of that has to do with this really being the first episode where they completely and utterly failed the Bechdel-Wallace test. And how that impacts our perception of all of the relation and all of the dialogue happening within it.
Mm-hmm. And I don't understand why they did it. Like I don't understand why it was necessary for all of those characters to be men. Just like
Absolutely.
I don't get it. I just don't get it. Like I don't have any more of an intellectual thought other than I just don't understand.
Speaking of things we don't understand, let's talk about Blonsky. Why is his retreat all men? Where are his soulmates? We got mention of the animals, which I'm fine with. Animals are expensive, either real or CGI. That's fine. They can be a mention. But where were the soulmates? Why are the only people attending your retreat men or mask presenting? But with all of that, how do we feel about this being like the conclusion of his arc so far? And did we need him to be here?
Well, I mean, I've said several times, I don't think I really needed this episode at all, but like I still don't have a read on him. Like he's still a little slimy. So like I still don't know when he's being honest and when he's not. Like, did his inhibitor actually malfunction because of an electric fence? Or like, was he doing something with Wong or something? Like, just because it's what he says doesn't mean it's what is true. And so he's still a question mark for me, I think, just in general. Like, I don't understand him. I don't trust him. But also, like, I guess I'm marginally entertained by him, so like he's fine.
You know what might help with that, Marissa?
I'm not watching that movie. Absolutely not. I have all the information I need.
Fair enough. I stand by the. I can never remember if it's 2003 or 2004, but whatever Hulk that one is, pretty good. I mean, like, not great, but like pretty good. Anyways, Alexis, where are you at with Blonsky so far?
See, my thing is, I felt completely differently about his story before this episode. Like, I thought the idea of doing a story where this guy who was the Abomination has like been in prison and we get this weird, reformation storyline we don't like super trust, but like it happened, and it kind of plays on these like common tropes, like he's in prison, but he's doing like yoga and like, had this funny bit with the police officer's wife and like has all these soulmates. To me, that was really like funny and interesting, and it like worked, right? I'm like, I am totally good with like the Abomination becoming this, guy who wants to take all of these soulmates out to this retreat and pretend he has handled like and unpacked his toxic masculinity. To me, that was a really like interesting plot and not something I expected to see from Marvel. This episode to me really derailed that, because I couldn't trust him in this episode. So it, called all of that into question. And for me, even though I understand that animals are super expensive, I think the lack of them is part of the reason I didn't trust him. Like, to me, if he's sitting there and he needs the inhibitor fixed and he's like holding a chicken, that's a much more viable, I, as a viewer, know that I'm supposed to believe that story to be true, because it wasn't. I was like, well, I don't believe that story to be true, and now there are no soulmates and there's no animals, and I don't buy any of this growth that we was kind of interesting, or that we thought had occurred. And so now I have no idea how I'm supposed to feel about him or the storyline or this weird ass ranch that seems to exist in another universe. Like, the layout of that property is bizarre. So yeah, but I actually included it in the discussion notes because it was a question I had seen kind of asked a lot in the social media space, but had not seen answered anywhere. Like, it was like people were asking it left and right, but nobody was responding to it. And I felt like our show may be a good place to talk about, to answer it a little bit, or to at least give our opinions on it. So,
absolutely.
And we didn't answer it at all.
If not taking all of the pop culture questions that nobody's answering, talking about them in a roundabout way, and not answering them ourselves and pretending like we did.
Yeah. Hey, the chaos is really chaosing.
No, we never claimed to be experts on anything.
I think we actually, in fact, claimed to not be experts on anything.
I think I have, however, claimed to be an expert on many things many times.
But you actually
Just
are.
not this.
I think Liz has claimed that you are an expert on many things many times.
Yeah, that is, yeah. That's what it is. Ding, ding, ding. I wasn't going to call her out since she's not here, but if you want to go ahead and do it, that's spousal privilege. I won't have to testify against you, so it's fine.
Yeah. The poor soulmates, really, none of them could be compelled to testify against Blonsky if anything happened. So, pretty solid choice
in the background with a chicken would have been great. Group therapy of the soulmates. trying to come to terms with like how
That's
much
what I was
time they
thinking.
have with him.
Why? Oh, okay. I went in a slightly different direction. I went, why does Blonsky need to be the one leading this group therapy discussion? Why not have one of the soulmates lead this discussion?
Mm-hmm. Still probably wouldn't have passed the Bechdel test, though.
True.
But I may have liked it a little bit more.
Yeah.
Same. I think we have to get into our final point, in which we discuss the superhero is really superheroing. We have finally gotten to the superheroing part of this show, and we have a lot of strong feelings about it. If you couldn't tell by the everything about us right now. I also, before we get into this, I want to mention a brief side note here. How come I didn't get the notification that we were wearing gray on the show today? I'm a little offended by the matchy-matchy going on.
We've been on camera for like 30 minutes before the show started. You had every opportunity to notice. And if you just noticed it right now, that's on you, my friend.
I never claimed to be observant. Anyways, we've got a superhero plot. Let's dive in.
But do we? Like, we still don't have any information. Other than, like, sketchy date man and the dark web.
Okay, we have
the dark web. TM.
Antagonist is the Hulk King, and he wants Jen's blood. He has cultivated a group within a site called Intelligentsia, where he has promoted anti-Hulk messaging. We've got Goonies working for him, some of which have apparently reformed and are going to a noted criminals wellness retreat to prove their reformation.
And
then
to
we've got,
what's the word? They robbed what is the word? There's no words in my brain. No,
stole.
You
committed thievery.
No, when you walk up to someone on the street and you say, "Give me all your shit."
Mugged.
That one. They mugged an Asgardian construction worker. That word was not in my brain.
Mugged?
And you've got Josh, who swindled his way into a wedding. Right? This is the wedding dude.
Yes.
Flirted it up with Jen. Dated Jen until they slept together, and then cloned her phone, stole her blood, and took a picture of her sleeping in her home. So that's the hierarchy we have so far. It's really superheroing. I don't know if I appreciate it.
I just don't know why. Like, I just don't understand. It's like,
I don't think we're supposed to. And that might be a problem.
Like, yes, it was established from the first episode, from Jen's conversations with Bruce, that her blood is very dangerous. It's very valuable. Incinerate everything with your blood on it. Then it took like 3 episodes for the street construction worker dudes to show up. Then it took like another 3 episodes to meet Josh and hear about Intelligentsia. And then episode 7, we're finally like, these things are sort of connected. But like 2 episodes to explain why they want her blood, what they're going to do with it, who the Hulk King is, how she's going to stop them. Like, that's a lot of superheroing for an hour of television. This is a 30-minute comedy, and that's a lot of superheroing for a 30-minute comedy.
I think it harks back to the formula we've seen in previous shows where we get 4 episodes, right? When they're doing the 6-episode shows, 6-episode hour-long shows, we had 4 hours worth of the primary antagonist, and then we got 2 hours worth of the main villain of the show. And I don't think that works in a 9-episode, 30-minute show.
Yeah.
At all.
It's hard because Jen is such a fun character and this show is fun and the comedy is funny, but like I don't know what they're trying to do with it anymore. Like I am enjoying it as entertainment. It is entertaining to me, but I thought I understood the premise that they were trying to accomplish and like the audience they were trying to speak to and their goals. But at this point, I don't anymore. I have no idea what they're doing and why the format and the style and the tone and the point of view is all the way that it is anymore.
I would really love to know what they think the thesis of the show is.
Yeah.
Alexis, where are you at with the superheroing?
I don't want to come in after you all have said like highly intelligent things. And
Come on.
my problem is that like the
We
man
need a
used a lot of
balance.
emojis, and that makes me feel like he's really not that intimidating. I felt like that the scene in the bedroom, like it was a little unclear to me. Like I got like the okay, he took a picture and I got these messages were happening. And so like I understand that he's involved in the plot and I understand that he like cloned her phone. But like some of the details, like the first time I watched it, I'm like, did he get her blood or not? Like
Right.
I was kind of confused about that. And I to harken back to what you said, husband, I do think I need to know like what the thesis is, because to me and the way my brain works without the thesis as well, I'm like, I don't really know if that con was worth it. Like it was like, I guess it was a solid con. I mean the technique was fine. It's a lot of effort. Like it went on a while. And like that was some
he was
like
courting her for a hot minute.
right. Like that was some dedication. And because the technique wasn't like, I think it's the part of my issue too is like it is a 30-minute comedy, right? And so like I think it was done in such a way that like they wanted the audience to be able to be like, oh no, he's not a good guy. But because all of us were like, oh no, he's not a good guy, I'm like, I feel like that says some not great things about Jen. And like her, like awareness and her, like competency.
Yeah.
Take a shot every time I say that. So that's kind of where I'm at. I really wanted this to be a show where just like every episode I got like a different legal case about like somebody in the Marvel world, and I just didn't have to deal with the rest of it. Like,
and we started with that, and it was so much fun. And then we fell into the trap of the Marvel show. It's like we had so much faith that this was not going to be the traditional Marvel show, and then it had to go and be the traditional Marvel show. And now
really
it's like
procedural.
I know it's like the Marvel show is becoming a genre of its own, a
Marvel
format
show
of its own.
Derogatory,
right? Not in a positive way. Yeah. I saw 2 commentaries by capital M men content creators this week, and one of them I actually thought was really funny. Darth Chaco, if you don't follow him, I highly recommend. But he said that like basically this stuff would be worth it to him if Daredevil like didn't have a cameo in the show. Like if the cameo like was the mask, or like if he only showed up in like the last seconds of the last episode, like he feels like the show is like trolling part of the fandom, and that would make some of this stuff worth it. But at the same time, like the same day, the other commentary I saw was that this male creator has a lot of female friends who have said the show isn't hitting for them. And there was a little bit of commentary in there about, you know, Jessica Gal being on the show, but the show featuring, you know, a white woman, and like if that's where the disconnect is coming from. But and I think that's very valid, but it was surprising to me to hear that, according to this man, that there were women watching the show that felt like this show wasn't hitting in terms of experience. And because I think most of our commentary on the show has been like, even though the show isn't maybe everybody's favorite show, or even if the format of the show isn't always working, that it has been a pretty relatable, like the women aspects of the show have been pretty relatable pieces of the show. And I'm wondering if maybe some of that not hitting is coming from trying to put this superhero plot in as well. And so now we're getting things like Jin in an all male wellness retreat for no reason. I don't know. I guess if you were someone in our audience that is watching the show and it is not hitting for you, legitimately, I would love to talk to you about it. So let me know, because I was kind of surprised by that. But after our conversation, I'm wondering if maybe those are kind of the aspects, like this other stuff they're trying to put in the show, are the parts of the show that are kind of making it derogatory.
I have seen a few women say that as well. And I have kind of wondered if it's an age thing. Because they tend to be younger. And I wonder if they don't relate as much to the workplace male authority figure experiences. And so, I mean, like work bureaucracy aspects of gender politics. And so I wonder if that might be part of it. I don't know. I can't speak for other people. But I do think that the superheroing part is to its detriment.
Yes. I will also say, to be clear, women can have different opinions on this show. This is, as much as this show is for our audience, it's also my 2 hours a week where I get to pick Marissa's brain, and get to pick Sly's brain and like have some of these questions answered. It's like, you know, so it doesn't necessarily bother me that it's not hitting for people. I was just curious as to why that may be, because I don't think that's a discussion that we show. So to be clear, I don't want this ending up on the internet with like, Alexis thinks all women should.
Alexis says you have to love this show, and if you don't, you're canceled.
Yeah.
I will say I'm not connecting with a lot of the show, and most of that has to do with having very parallel experiences as also minority gender, but not as a like capital W woman. Like that is like all of the touchstones and the corner pieces for like womanhood of the show are completely lost on me, and I understand that as part of why there's a disconnect, but I don't know how much of that has to do with all of the disconnect, if that makes any sense.
Yeah.
I will say shout out to, I know Bunky's not watching live anymore, but when Bunky catches the replay, their Instagram story a while back had posed a lot of interesting questions about like the Marvel universe in general, about like this idea they've introduced about copyright laws and who holds the copyrights for, who owns like merchandising rights for all of these superheroes. And I'm like, yeah, this is the She-Hulk I wanted. These are the questions I wanted answered. I want nitty gritty case law, like procedural. And, you know, that's not what we're getting. And that's fine. It's still doing something. It's still out there. You know, there are still parts that are powerful and making an impact. So, like, I don't know.
If you had to, I'm going to ask you an unprepared question.
No.
If you had to like pick, like, what would be the top like case that you would want to see or had wanted to see in this type of show? Like, if you could see any like Marvel, She-Hulk like case, MCU case law case, like, what would you want to see?
This is totally not answering your question, but what I was really hoping for from this show with the whole Matt Murdock of it all is I really wanted to see the two of them on opposite sides of a case and Jen kicking his ass. I will think about my case answer while Marissa goes, but
well, I have my actual answer. Which is something that would never happen and would make no sense character-wise to happen. But I want Sam Wilson to sue the United States government for the rights to the title Captain America.
Yes!
Like, that is what I want most in the world for anyone. But that would never happen. But also, I have a weird... It's not that weird. It's a slightly informed theory about how Matt Murdock shows up on this show, because for 7 episodes, I'm like, why the hell is he in California? Like, what gets him out there? And I think it's this Lawyer of the Year conference thing that they teased, because Jen is nominated for Female Lawyer of the Year. And I feel like he's going to show up as like the lawyer who defended Peter Parker, or like Spider-Man, or well, maybe not, because people forgot that case existed. Nope, my theory's out the wall. Nope, sorry, I'm wrong.
No, I still
maybe
think
he's still at the conference.
Yeah, I still think he's going to be at the conference. Yeah.
As for so my original thought, which now just looks like I'm copying Marissa, was there was so much within Falcon and the Winter Soldier talking about the history of ownership of the shield and how contentious that was. Thought that would be an interesting line to talk about. I think I wouldn't trust the show to do this commentary, but I think it would be interesting if they had a solid, you know, some sort of immigration type case with people from other planets. I think that would have been really interesting. I don't necessarily trust them, Marvel as a whole, to handle that story the way it deserves. And then I would just love to see like a montage of when Jen first comes to the company and having to defend like really awful cases, just like getting the bottom of the barrel, just like a whole montage of like all these awful cases she has to defend to like prove herself or whatever.
I have another answer.
Go for it. This is an amazing question. Thank you, Alexis.
You're welcome. This is another thing that I've been thinking about since Falcon and the Winter Soldier. I want so desperately the nitty-gritty, like 6-episode Netflix docu-series about Bucky Barnes' pardon. What terms were agreed on? Who defended him? What was the evidence? Did someone from Wakanda testify? Like, I want that.
Yeah, my thing that I wouldn't trust Marvel with, but I
witnesses.
Yes. My I wouldn't trust Marvel with, but I wanted what was some sort of case involving like Wakandan copyright infringement. or
Ooh.
misappropriate use of a patent, because like they have created all this technology that seems to be being used elsewhere. And like you said, Marissa, I think there are some like, Falcon and Winter Soldier, like Bucky Barnes kind of connections there that would have been interesting.
Yeah. We want case law. We want Marvel Cinematic Universe case law.
Insurance cases.
Yes.
I want like property dispute, like anything, like the nitty-gritty details that we've all been pondering on. It harkens back to the origin of this show, right? Of course, Liz started the Stark Radio. Like, what would a radio station be like in the Avengers universe? And I just think there's such a market for people who love pondering these questions and would love to see a way to have some of them answered or some of them refuted or something like that within the show. And that's not what we've got. But whatever.
The more pedantic and nuanced and specific details they can give us about this fictional universe, the better.
Oh man.
I want to know people's addresses. I want people's phone numbers. What do their Twitters look like? I want all of it.
I have a whole this episode for me, I left with like 7,000 questions about real estate. Like I read so many real estate questions in this episode. Like home design, like I had a lot of real estate questions in 911 this week as well. So it must just have been a real estate week, but
I know this is a conversation Alexis has had, but I'm pretty sure Marissa was not involved. I recently had a discussion on how I had to attempt to explain the definition of pedantic to a 6-year-old. Oh. And so when you said pedantic, I was like, I'm pretty sure you were not a part of that conversation.
No.
And that's hilarious to me. And I had to do this because I did in fact call my 6-year-old cousin. I tell him he was being pedantic and then have to try to define that in like 6-year-old terms.
That's hilarious because that tells me a lot about that 6-year-old.
Right?
If you called them pedantic. That's wonderful.
JJ brings up a great point. Where's House Hunters but MCU edition?
Yeah.
I don't understand.
A whole new like reality television in the MCU.
Honestly, yeah, I need it. I need House Hunters for every fictional show I'm obsessed with. I need the House Hunters Leverage edition. I need the House Hunters 911 edition. I need it all. I have a lot of questions.
I just love this show so much because these are the things Alexis thinks about, and I just do not understand real estate at all in general. And so when I'm watching a show, I suspend all disbelief. Like if you're telling me that in your fictional universe, this is what it looks like in this part of the country, sure, all right, I'll buy it. I'm right there with you.
God,
like
I'm so fucking jealous
no
of
critical
you.
thought.
Can I go on a pedantic rant for a second?
Absolutely.
The hair in this episode made no sense. I almost forgot about this. Jen's hair made no sense. So she's Jen. She's standing by her Prius Prime product placement. She turns into She-Hulk. Her hair is still in a ponytail, but it's not a long straight ponytail. It's like now in a bun. And then she turns back into Tiny Jen. Her hair is still in a ponytail and it's curly. Then later on, she's Jen. Her hair still in a ponytail. She turns into She-Hulk. She now has long flowing hair. The ponytail holder did not break or be removed from her hair. She has long flowing hair. Then she turns back into Tiny Jen and she has curly hair down. I don't understand. Like the laws of this transformation have to maintain through every iteration. If she turns into She-Hulk, her hair always has to be down, or it has to maintain the same style it was when she was Jen. I got so mad. I'm done now.
You're so valid, bestie. Like, talk your shit. I'm here for it. You're so right. But speaking of the Prius crimes, we're gonna hop into my favorite segment where we all call each other out based on our notes this episode. Because I put in my notes Prius Prime name drop. We love sparkle emojis. Capitalism. And then I was reading through Alexis's notes, and Alexis says, Prius Prime mentioned twice. That was a drop. Must investigate what this is. Note to Alexis, learn about Prius Primes. To which I commented, not worth it.
I do have to say,
not great. I mean, they're fine, but not a great.
The rhythm of the line, apologize to my Prius Prime with money, is very funny. Like,
Right.
It's a funny line, but it is also like, apologize to my Kia Soul. My 2022 Kia Soul with backup camera. Look, I'll demonstrate it for you right now. It was very network television product placement.
It
car.
Very CW product placement to me. Like, I feel like the CW is like peak for like, let me hack into the gray net on my Windows Surface tablet. You know, like it's very, it's very like,
yeah.
Shout out to Felicity Smoke.
If you aren't aware, because I co-opt this segment whenever Liz is gone, this is just us pulling out notes from each other's. Marissa's is always the best, so we're gonna start with Marissa.
Oh,
Alexis, you commented your pick for this week.
Yes, and I remember what it was, but I'm not going to trust myself until I find it. Yeah. Well, it should be both. Because first we got ROM, all capital letters, ROM, period, com, period. And then in all capital letters again, we got romantic, comantic, which was funnier than most jokes this show tried to make to me.
that's the full version of rom-com.
Romantic, romantic. Yeah.
Rom-com rhymes, so romantic comedy should also rhyme. Like, if you're going to give the formal name,
right. We're here
right.
with you.
Yeah, I
you
really
did not have to
appreciate
defend this choice. Mine was Obama's Day, which I can never tell if Marissa's notes, because she has a huge aversion to the quotation mark, apparently. I can never tell if this is a joke within the show that I missed or Marissa's actual notes, but I'm choosing to believe that this is Marissa's notes because it sounds funnier than anything the show came up with.
It was an actual joke in the show. It was a poster.
Really?
It was a poster behind the group therapy. That it was like a traditional namaste poster that is like
exactly. You read my mind. Intern of the week moment right there.
Yeah, it's good.
Incredible.
So it was a poster like in the background of group therapy. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, it was like behind. It was on the side wall, so it was like behind Porcupine? Yeah.
All right.
I have my answer for Alexis.
Yeah, go for it.
Okay. I don't know that she wants me reading this out loud, but she wrote, let me find it. Oh, she just loves, okay, I found it. She wrote, sometimes I just knife emoji, capital M, men.
With an asterisk. It was M asterisk men.
Yeah. Well,
so
I wanted to
sometimes I just men. Is how I read it.
That was also up there in my lists. But another one was, what is the situation? Oh, it's like MLM group therapy. And I'm pretty sure you mean multi-level marketing, but my brain said men loving men group therapy. And that made it even better.
That is the perfect difference between Sly and Alexis.
As soon as you read it out loud, I was like, oh my God, Sly thinks that I meant men love men. And I did not mean that thing. Honestly, would have been here for it. Would have been more interested in the therapy discussion if it was like, everybody was in love with each other and there was unresolved romantic tension.
I would argue there was a little bit of unresolved romantic tension between Manbull and...
We can't talk about the codependency. I cried for like 8 hours. Okay. Can't do it. Moving on.
On that note, what are our final thoughts on the episode?
No, I wanted to give
We have to do your notes.
Oh, yeah, you have to do your notes.
Okay, fine.
You wrote towards the end of the episode, such a cute little shimmy. And I don't know what that means, but I found it greatly entertaining. I have no idea where in the episode that is, who was doing the shimmy, but such a cute little shimmy. Not little, Lil.
I'm guessing it's the group therapy scene at the very end.
I feel like Sly was
remember
secretly here for the group therapy situation.
I really enjoyed the group therapy scene.
Yeah, there it is.
Because the next note is, the gang is fucking adorable.
Yeah,
I did not.
This was one
Happy
week.
for you.
Typically, to be really honest, I typically write all my notes and then read everybody else's. But this week, I was so confused by this episode. Like, I don't know where I was at mentally. I was so fucking confused the whole time that I kept skipping to everybody's notes to be like, somebody please have explained like this important thing. And both of you would skip whatever I needed to be explained and then say something like, such a cute little shimmy. I'm like, all right, great, thank you. Like, I think I even have a note that's like, nope, Marissa didn't explain it, so I'm more confused than I was previously. Moving on. I really liked Sly's note that they already mentioned with the capitalism. The other note that I really liked, because it was just such a Sly thing to say, was this like not a matador working through identity issues, swashbuckler.
I was taking notes of the new characters. What do you want from me?
It is just so like concise and so like you. I would have spent a paragraph being like, there's a matador, there's like Spain. He's like, Sly's like, not a matador, identity issues, swashbuckler.
Just facts.
Yeah. Best.
Straight facts, information relevant to this conversation, like things we need to know. Sly's got us covered. Random ass thoughts about romantic comantic. That's what I've got to offer. And Alexis has 25 pages of intelligence and analytical.
It was not intelligent this week. I
think it really highlights the difference in who Alexis and I are as people and our flavors of neurodivergency, because I am very direct, so literal, like so bullet point to the point. Like, I just need all of the relevant information, everything else, whatever. And Alexis will give like 5 like points within this like one moment, and I'm like, I have no big brain thoughts. I'm glad you do.
I did not really have big brain thoughts this week. You all are going to convince people I think about this critically, and most of my notes were like, I want that doorknob. But the other Sly note that I appreciated was delicious identity crisis.
That was about Jen.
That too.
She was having a delicious identity
Just
crisis.
really appreciated the way you discussed identity crises in your notes this week, okay? There was a range there. I appreciated it.
I will say all of these are the group therapy scene, all of my notes are the delicious identity crisis. We love immediately jumping to murder. Such a cute little shimmy. The game is fucking adorable. That's all I put for the entire.
I mean, I don't think I wrote anything. No, all of my notes about the group therapy is just me being mad that men exist. So you did much better.
I can only hate so much of, the masculine part of my identity.
That's why I put the asterisks around the M. I was trying to be
capital
clear.
M men.
Capital
Very different
M,
vibe.
yeah.
I totally understand. So yeah, with that, final thoughts?
I have no idea what's happening next or how it's going to happen. Or anything.
My pro for this episode, I'll do a pro and a con. So my high for this episode
Roses and thorns
would have been you've never heard of Spain, because I did think that. I also guffawed over that line. And my negative this episode would have been that there were just so all of a sudden there was just a lot of capital M men energy in this space. And that was disconcerting.
Yeah.
Okay. My pros and cons. My pros, I love a yurt. My con, Jen was texting and driving, and I don't appreciate that energy.
Yeah.
A lot of triggering driving behavior in media this week.
So true, bestie. I'm so sorry.
Like,
it's been a rough week for Alexis.
Yeah, traumatic. Like cars, I sometimes I still wake up and there are days where I'm like, I can't drive. I just can't operate a car today. Right? It's a very big thing for me. And this week I was like, damn it. Like everyone is having car issues. There's like this codependency crisis that I didn't need to put on my radar. Like it was just like, wow. Media was not here for Alexis this week.
Speaking of cars, my pro is cars are not props. I appreciated that commentary that like a lot of cars get destroyed in like superhero media. Like we love to like slam someone into a car for no reason for like an action moment. And we don't think about the people that own those cars and have to drive them. And we should be apologizing to those cars with money. So I appreciated that. Obviously, my con is too many men, specifically Joshua, and that whole last like 2 minutes
Full
of the
Christian
episode.
name.
Full Christian name.
Well,
Joshua last name.
Marissa was like, I'm not going to know any of these men by name. And we skipped calling them by their names and just went to full like Joshua, period.
Josh is just a gross name.
Very telling.
Yeah, very fitting to that mediocre, long-ish con situation he pulled off.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Anyways, that's enough time talking about media that's not working for Alexis this week. Let's talk about some media that is working for Alexis this week. Apparently, Leverage Redemption got a teaser trailer. The fact that you did not send this to me, I'm a little offended, but it's fine.
Here's the thing. I did check and make sure it had captions. It did. I know the 911 trailer wounded you in that regard. But sure. I also know you don't always consume like previews to media. Like I think with 911, maybe you don't. Is that correct?
Correct.
So I was like, well,
all right, that's so valid. I do say that a lot. I don't watch previews or trailers.
And then it hit me that like literally like an hour before the show, I was like, well, maybe it's just 911, but I wasn't sure. So that's why I didn't send it to you. But Leverage Redemption, we knew they were filming their second season. But we had really no other information. Like they borrowed from Fox's playbook. They did not give us any advertising at all for their show. And they did the same thing with the first season of Leverage Redemption, where we didn't really get any advertising until like the week of the drop. But they had blamed that on COVID. Anyway, so we found out we got a release date. So November 16th. It is going to be on the Freevee app, the Amazon free TV app thing. We have still not
TV, which is a disgusting name.
I hate
well,
it.
then they
so
changed it. Like it's still IMDb TV, but the name is different. I think the name is actually like Freevee now.
It's Freevee, which is even worse.
It's even worse.
It's yeah.
And they haven't really been clear on like, we know we're getting a big episode drop, but they haven't been specifically clear about whether or not we're getting like the entire season or whether they're doing an A-B breakdown like they did for the first season of Redemption. We did see the full cast in the trailer. So we did see that Flynn Carson, the librarian, is going to be back, which hadn't been confirmed. We did see both Hardison and Brianna, which had been something that had come up kind of in the press surrounding the first season, that Aldous Hodge did want to come back. He wanted a fuller role in the second season, but because he is becoming like a real famous actor now, he wasn't sure if that was going to work out for him. So we did see him in the trailer. Some thoughts about the trailer include that we got a new like entrance spiel from Sophie. So we, instead of sticking with the original, like, companies hurt people, we provide leverage, we have given Sophie a new intro that includes the fact that they are doing this to redeem themselves from their criminal pasts, which I don't think works. I think that has long been the subtext of the show. It became text a little bit in Leverage Redemption Season 1 Part A with Elliot, but I would argue that some of these people are not looking for that redemption. Sophie among them. Sophie, who doesn't seem to have a lot of trouble with her criminal past. Parker, who doesn't always seem to understand the effects of her criminal past, rightfully so. So that hit a little weird for me. And then there was a line from Parker included in the trailer where she says, it looks to be in her earbud, Hardison, I know you're watching this, to which would be fine. But then Brianna responds with what he's watching, and Parker says, he's always watching, and smirks. And I am waiting for the effect that has on the fandom via fanfiction, especially since Elliot would be in the long shot of that scene. So we'll see how that breaks down. But interesting trailer. Redemption has been an interesting addition to Leverage because I would say the influence of the original creative team has not been consistent within the Redemption seasons themselves. Like Redemption Season 1 had not a lot of John Rogers influence in the first half, but quite a bit of John Rogers influence in the second half. This trailer seems to kind of be going back to that like first chunk space where some of the ideas like this redeeming their criminal past element are not really consistent to the characters that we've seen in the first chunk of the show. But we did get a release date. There are some interesting callbacks. Everybody looks good. The first half of Redemption, everybody looks good. I would apologize for the person I'm about to become, but I never unbecame the person that Leverage turned me into. So I guess I apologize for more of this.
I've been waiting for it and Beth, this explanation for you to say anything regarding my favorite person from Redemption, and you've said nothing yet so far. So that breaks my heart a little bit. Do we think she's coming back?
Do we think who's coming back? Oh, not in the trailer. So I think at most we may get a mention. I don't think we will see her. The trailer also makes it unclear because the way the first season was set up, Brianna was kind of there to fill in when Hardison was not. And then when we saw Hardison, it was kind of like a cool surprise. Hardison is someone that for me occasionally works better in small doses. So it was a great surprise for me. Not always, but sometimes. And then when Aldous Hodge and press started talking about coming back full-time, there were questions about whether Brianna would stay on full-time or not. The trailer does not answer those questions. They are both in it, and it kind of gives the impression that maybe neither of them are in all the episodes. Which I think having a full season where both of them are in every episode would do some things to the dynamic. I don't know whether they'd be positive or negative, but they both kind of serve the same story role. They both have similar jobs. They're both kind of the more traditional comedy aspect, I would say. Like they fill that role a little bit more. But I'm not convinced that Brianna will be in every episode, and that makes me more convinced that your favorite person will not actually come back.
R.I.P. We love lesbians on a train.
That was a long explanation for what you asked. I would also love to see our gay farmer besties again.
Oh, the gay farmer besties.
If you haven't
watched Leverage Redemption, do it. It's so gay. I love it so much.
It is truly the culmination of like a collective of people who were told by a network that they couldn't do anything gay for 5 seasons, and then were told that they could do whatever they wanted. I mean, that's really kind of the feel. We got lesbian grifters in season 1 of Redemption too, which were great. So
great times.
This is me realizing I've talked too much about Leverage Redemption, and I was hoping Marissa would say something.
I'm so here for it. I'm so sorry, Marissa.
No, as you were talking,
Leverage Corner.
As you were talking, what I realized is that you both talk about 911 so much more on this show, and yet I know so much more about Leverage. I don't know how, if it's just like the voice messages from Alexis I've absorbed over the last year. Like, I was like, oh yeah, I know that character, and I know that character, and like that they're the grifter, and like
we did a whole breakdown of which of the 4 of us is which role in Leverage way back when we first started.
Yeah. And Marissa did have to. There were some pre-Sly has seen Leverage, but there were some pre-Sly situations where I needed to talk about it, and you were not there yet. So Marissa just got like 20 hours of voice memos that there is no way she understood.
But I listened to all of them.
And culminated in her understanding of Summersby's and Sotheby's art auction houses for a hot second.
Almost the topic of my presentation for Alexis's birthday, but I truly couldn't remember enough about it. It was a year ago.
So fair. All right, Marissa, what was under your radar this week?
Okay, I decided that if you might recall, the original idea for this segment was that we were going to talk about something positive and something negative in the news. And so I'm going to do that. The positive is the Into the Woods 2022 Broadway cast revival recording. 2022 Broadway revival cast recording is out. It came out yesterday. It is perfect. I haven't listened to anything since. But what also came out this week is the 2022 Broadway revival cast recording of The Music Man, which is not perfect. Which also features a gentleman previously mentioned on tonight's episode, a one Hugh Jackman.
The
So
love of
I
my
would
life, who's doing some things now, I guess.
And listen, I grew up with The Music Man and I grew up with Sutton Foster, and I love both of those things individually. Together,
It's
not
just
so much. I'm so sorry to say. So I would highly recommend you listen to the Into the Woods cast recording. You can skip The Music Man and maybe find some Rebecca Luker or Barbara Cook era Music Man recordings instead. Yeah, go team Into the Woods.
I was trying to think of copying Marissa what could be my negative of this week, but I have 0 brain cells, so I'm not even going to try. But my positive of the week is we all know I love a spreadsheet. I'm a huge fan of spreadsheets, and I share that love with wonderful friend of the show, Bucky, who recently started going through all of the Taylor Swift discography, which I also need to do. And Bucky made an incredible spreadsheet to track their progress, and it is available if you go to their TikTok or their Ko-fi or anywhere. You can get the link to download the spreadsheet and you can track your own listening of Taylor Swift. It's so good. It's color coded. It's amazing. It's all you could ever ask for in a spreadsheet. And I love a spreadsheet. So that was really exciting that they made that shareable.
And as of earlier today, 500 people have downloaded it. So join the club.
Very good.
Yeah. It's very impressive.
Also, clipping remixing 2.2 came out, and that's very exciting for me and only me, because nobody else I know cares about clipping, but I love them so much.
I know about clipping, but I don't
They're so good.
know clipping.
I got really into clipping during the last 2 years of my high school experience. And so there's some heavy nostalgia in some of their albums, and it just takes me right back. But they're just so good. I had another thought, but it's gone. So on that note, does anybody else have any thoughts as I finish my wine here?
No.
We are brain empty.
It's the after party.
It's the after party.
I will say that there were some comments in the chat about Elliot's hair in the Leverage Redemption trailer, and it is ridiculously long. Like uncomfortably long. Like it doesn't make sense kind of long.
Is this the checklist man?
I'm sure Elliot's on the checklist. Okay. I don't know if he was why the checklist originated, but
no,
he's on it. Yeah.
Okay.
But he,
I was very confused because Leverage does have Gordon Bishop.
Yeah, it does.
Definitely on the checklist.
There is,
but Elliot is also on the checklist.
There's a man on Leverage that is like the checklist man for Leverage. I was like,
I think
Elliot.
That's Elliot.
That's okay. Okay.
Yeah. Elliot has a good hair journey in the original show.
He has an interesting hair journey.
Yeah, I think it's solid. I mean, it tracks to me.
Sometimes it's solid.
Yeah.
There are some that I have feelings about.
We do go through the weird phase where like part of it's braided some of the time. That's
enjoy the braided.
Oh, you liked the braided. Okay.
I really don't enjoy the short, chunky.
Yes. Okay. Yeah.
That was not my favorite.
I've never seen this person. I don't know what they're talking about.
My absolute favorite Elliot hair is when it's long enough to ponytail and he just has the two little strandy things.
I also love a bandana. I love an Elliot bandana moment.
The bandanas are great. That's the same era, right?
Yes, same era. Yeah. But when Redemption started, we were in a weird place where like his hair wasn't actually long enough, so there was some like wig piece work, and now he is going straight from Almost Paradise, where it is short, terrible show, to Leverage, and it is like Jesus length. Like it is like traditional Catholic depiction of a white Jesus. Like it is that length. It is absurdly long, and it
Do
is.
we need to pull up
clearly a
pictures
wig.
of Elliot Spencer so Marissa and our audience can enjoy these?
Yeah, maybe.
I'm looking.
The new trailer hair is like, and it's like split hard split down the middle. It's all in his face. It is a moment. Yeah, it is uncomfortably long.
We're just gonna
Really?
show off Google.
Oh, why did they do that?
Leverage season 2?
Leverage Redemption season 2? What are you looking for? Are you
you're
looking
right.
for the bandana hair?
I was
Marissa's
looking for
face.
both, but
It's sending me. See,
no,
that's not it. That's not it. No. It is like, I can't even, I'll see if I can tag it in the trailer and send you a photo. Hang on.
Oh, I see. It's
wow.
Yeah.
here.
Yeah.
Freevee. What a
lot of
disgusting
hair.
name for a streaming service.
Wow.
But yeah, I want a bandana era. Isn't that OG season 2?
Yes, I believe it's OG season 2. Which I only know because you messaged me that one time. And we're just like,
listen, it was a very important question.
It was. I was honored that it was asked of me.
This is a little too short.
Mm-hmm.
Not a fan.
Yeah, that was original spinoff hair conceit. Yeah.
Yeah. All right. That's enough looking at
Wow.
that man.
I've never seen that man before. Wow. That's a whole new picture in my brain now. Wow.
Oh, what? Speaking of uncomfortable pictures,
What?
It's been a long week. We're losing the plot of the show a little bit, and I think it's time for us to call it.
I am sad because
before
we
get
used
outta
to do
here-
this thing where we would like ask questions when we were short on time. And I loved that, but I don't think tonight is the night for it. Just know in the future, I want us to go back to that.
I appreciate that. We'll bring it back. But before we kick ourselves out of here, where can the lovely people find you on the internet?
Find me? Oh, I'm Alexis Blake at just Alexis Blake all over the internet. If you want previous Marvel commentary, you can find it on TikTok at just Alexis Blake. No, at Alexis Blake Reads Comics. But important thing, I am doing a research project. This is a fascinating project because it came up in a conversation with one of my professors, and I tried to talk them out of it, and they keep bringing it up. So now I am doing it, but I'm doing a content analysis of at least season 6 of 911, probably all of the seasons, because media representation and criminal justice is like a thing that's happening. And we're really wanting to look at like the way that police are portrayed in shows that center around other first responders. I think there's a red versus blue commentary to be had. But there are also some like racial diversity questions. And I figured if I was going to answer all those, I might as well also be able to count like how many times Eddie Diaz was gay. So if you have anything that you want included in this content analysis, which I will be posting about, even though literally no one cares, please let me know and I will add it to the fabulous spreadsheet before I start working on it on Monday. That's me. I also have cats who are on Instagram at Tommy and Ceci Blake. Marissa, who are you?
I am Marissa.
Just taking my job. I see how it is.
I'm trying to take like baby steps so I can relieve you if needed in the future. I'm trying to like warm myself up to it.
You're doing great tonight. I'm Marissa. You can find me on TikTok, Instagram, and Twitter at Missabobissa, talking about Marvel and Disney and wigs and theater. And I sadly will not be on the show next week because I'm going to a little place called Harry's house. I will be at a Harry Styles concert during the show next week.
Shout out to Marissa, who I know I have roasted publicly for not putting her vacations in the show calendar. She put all 3 of them in the show calendar for the next 2 weeks, and I'm so very proud of her.
Even the things I'm doing that have nothing to do with the day of the show. But
I have
you
got to learn how to
definitely,
use the show calendar.
you definitely want to follow me on Instagram and Twitter to see all of my updates from Harry's house and a very exciting magical place on Earth that I will be visiting. And also my birth. There's a lot happening next week. I'm going to a concert. I'm going to Mickey's. I'm going to Harry's house. I'm going to Mickey's house. And it's my birthday. So attention time for me, please. At Missabobissa, TikTok, Instagram, and Twitter. Okay, thanks.
The other
Right.
half of the show who enjoys attention is, of course, our fearless leader, Liz, at Producer Liz on TikTok and Instagram, and on Twitter at Producer Liz with 2 Zs. Of course, please, please, please go send Liz all the good vibes this week. Our heart is with her. If for some god-awful reason you want to find me on the internet, I'm at SlycloneMC everywhere you can imagine. Not much going on there.
This
If you want to hear my
self-deprecation.
ramblings,
I'm not here for it.
if you want to hear my ramblings, you can find me on Thirsty Thursday, every Thursday night on TikTok. You can find me on the Point and Progress podcast. We have some very exciting things coming up for spooky season. So make sure to follow us on YouTube and Twitch at Point in Progress. And of course, MC University is back from hiatus. We kicking it off with a couple episodes featuring some really cool faces that may or may not be on screen. Very exciting. Yeah, there's a lot of very fun stuff to come for MC University. I'm really proud of the work we're doing over there. So please go check that out on the Point in Progress YouTube or on your audio feed of choice. And with that,
And of course, as we're plugging every social handle under the sun,
yes,
follow
thank you.
We'll Throw the After Party at After Party Show SHO on TikTok, Instagram, and Twitter to keep up with us and all of the fun updates about what we're doing over here. And join us on YouTube and Twitch every Saturday at 8 o'clock Eastern. And like and subscribe and comment and follow and
all of our lovely memes hosted by our lovely meme master Marissa, and you can find me showing off all of the reject thumbnails that I make. There's been a couple. There's been like 3 in my history of making thumbnails, but you'll find them on the Twitters. And with that, until next week, we'll see you later.
yeah.
I actually had the thing prepared. Be proud
Hell
of me.